pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to our Monday, February 3rd meeting. Give me 1 second. All right, we'll open with public comment on agenda items. Paul.
I have a few things. First of all, is this budget that is out on the table over there?
Yeah.
Is this the same budget? There's a bunch of pages missing. There's the page that starts with legal processing services is missing. The page that starts with contractual expenses is missing. And the page that starts with stormwater maintenance, so the total general fund balance is missing.
That's how it came out of the email.
Did you make copies of that?
Yeah, it came out of the email, though, we double-sided.
All right, but was it double-sided?
Yes.
Yeah, but you only did one side.
This isn't double-sided.
Well, it should have been, we hit double-sided. I'll run these
Okay.
new ones.
We'll run some other.
I have
It's the
original,
same.
but I just wanted to see if it was the
But it
same.
is
I
the
was going
same.
through it.
Well, it is the same.
All right, I was just going through it, I
Yeah,
just wanted to see
apologies
if it
on
was the
that.
same.
I'll run it for you again if you want.
No, I have it right here.
Okay.
I can use that to sprout. Okay, on the letter from the state, and that's what I was looking through that budget for, they said that they would receive a conflicting budget. What budget did you guys send up to them that was conflicting?
So there was a little, in one of the calculations I had on health insurance, it was only about a $34,000 discrepancy. I realized it after the fact, and I emailed the state comptroller to make them aware of it. Not knowing, they didn't request a new budget, so it was just a miscommunication. I thought they were gonna make that change on the budget they had, but apparently they didn't, and they wrote us up for that.
Because they said that the village did not provide us with accurate budgeted figures in a timely manner to perform our, just, but that 34,000 is,
That was the discrepancy.
That's what
It was
that
in
was?
health insurance, yeah. And it was in favor, like it was a reduction, so it helped the tax levies.
so my question was, the budget that you're voting on tonight, is that the same budget that we have, that was presented on January 13th?
Yes,
Yes,
Exactly the same,
Yes.
nothing was changing?
no.
No other budgets out there?
correct.
Okay, all right. The other thing was on, Tom, on your response to the thing, I was looking for something all day, I couldn't find it.
What was that?
You said that your response to USC comment, review the proposed estimates for revenues and expenditures, the village response was, with the implementation of new governmental financial software, the treasurer is able to generate budget to actual reports, present the budget to the board. The treasurer also presented to the board and the public quarterly budget actuals during the 24-25 fiscal year. Where are those listed? I haven't seen those.
I presented twice in 2 different meetings. I did it as of July
Quarterly,
31st.
it says quarterly.
Yeah, I
says-
did it in
says-
July, and I did it again in November. I presented it to the public, the quarterly, for those periods ending.
For those, just for the quarters.
Yeah,
All right, now, and I'm talking on agenda items, so I'm talking about that specific agenda item for the quarterly things. The controller's office is recommending or suggesting monthly reports.
Well, we will be producing, see, one of the things too, that the history of this, right, prior to going on to Edmonds, there really was no true fabric of.
But now, going
Financial
forward,
data.
from now, we
Right.
have Edmonds.
Now, moving forward, right, we posted and it was brought up by Anthony, I believe it was, and it's on the agenda to say, moving forward, when we get the adopted budgets and, more importantly, the audits completed, so that we'll know exactly what the numbers will be, all of that will be posted on a quarterly basis. The department managers will be getting their information monthly with, when we meet weekly, one of the monthly meetings will be going over their expenditures and making sure we're staying in line with everything that we're doing.
But I'm saying, as bad as things were, they're recommending, would you go to monthly reports?
We will be and are doing monthly reports. Once this is adopted, we'll be doing monthly reports for the managers, yes.
And I can't understand on the state questions, and we've gone over this before, and I mean, you've been around,
Right.
and how can they say, if they don't, you know, you guys base the water and sewer on actuals? In other words, my question to you right now is, how many water and sewer customers are billed? Do we have billed? How many units do we have billed in the village right now?
Number that, we were talking to the county because we were talking about taxes, right? And it's a whole different subject, but at the end of the day, I believe the number was 1988.
Okay, and how many?
I'm sorry, or 1899. It's
How
in that
many,
about
how many
100.
facility charges do we bill?
If it,
Because that'll be different.
why?
Well, it'll be different because the building in the back here has 17 facility charges.
Oh, in that respect, yes. So, yeah, I mean, depending on the number of units, they get charged $58 per.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
That
So-
number I don't have in my head. at the
So
moment.
whatever that number is, it's times 58.
Right,
That's guaranteed income. That's money you're gonna get. Either when I come in and pay my bill, or when it's re-levied at the end of the year.
but you know we use that $58 for, right?
I don't, whatever we use it for, I'm talking about the money that they claim we could be short,
Okay,
all right?
but what,
You base, and I'm asking, what do you base your revenue on for water and sewer?
well, back to the $58. The $58 does not go into or split between the water and sewer funds. That $58 is paying for the sewer plant back when you were on the board and you guys approved it, and it got finished about 2020. So that 13 million, 10 million, whatever that magical number is, we're paying approximately $430,000 a year to pay off that plant. That money is coming from that $58 times the amount of units. That's where that money's coming from.
My question is the revenue amount. You take $58, or you take,
That's got nothing-
unless everybody just stops using water and pays the minimum of 7,500 gallons, then you still have a fixed number
Right,
based on the number of customers. The one constant is the $58 facility fee. That's constant. So if you have that number times 58, that's how much money you're gonna take in for facility fees. Water and sewer can fluctuate.
right.
It can't go below that $7,500, 7,500 gallons, but it can go above it, and most time it does, all the time it does. So how can they not, and I'm talking about the state now. The state says if they don't collect as much money as they anticipate, you have to anticipate how much money you're gonna get by the number of customers you have.
Right, and that is based on the numbers that were presented or that we received in revenues last year. That's what Leslie is going by. The one thing that we have tried to express many times, that anything, and mostly in the sewer plant, because there's more moving parts there, that it's super expensive in maintenance to operate a sewer plant. So, you know, for an example, we mentioned that the BSR building, just a recent example, that there was a $17,000 part. And that was just for the part, that didn't include obviously the maintenance to install it. It's just very expensive. So from an expense point of view, we want to be prepared if something happens. The only thing we're really doing in there, at the end of the day, is maintenance and necessary charges that we have to pay for, like TAM hauling of the press, right? They press the water out of the waste, and it gets dumped into a trailer, and that gets hauled off. So, there, you know, all the maintenance, all the mechanical repairs, that's what that budget is taking care of, and besides H2O's contractual fees, that was done, actually signed off just before we got into office, and that's a 5-year contract. So, you know, that won't expire until 2026. So, the numbers are the numbers. When we are trying to be conservative and watch every dollar we spend, because we did not want to raise water and sewer rates. We wanted that to maintain. We felt at the time everything we were able to maintain, but we're still in the audit mode, and those numbers are still needing to come back. So the sewer was in worse shape and seemed to be in a deficit when all of this was going on, and there were no rate increases since probably 2016. There's been no increases. So it's just facts.
And again, now, let's just say all of that, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm just gonna, again, I'm talking about revenue. What you have for sewer rents and water, and what they had in their letter to you. Budget includes sewer revenues of 1.5 million, which is a decrease of 21,000, 24-25.
Right.
We project the village to receive 1.3 million for 24. The village does not plan to increase rates, blah, blah, blah. As a result, we project the village to receive the same revenue of 1.3 million for 25-26. Therefore, the village could face a potential shortfall of approximately $261,000 if that's not realized. My point is revenue. We know what we're gonna get. You should have a good idea of what you're gonna get in revenue, water and sewer.
Yes, we do.
All right, but yet, they keep on saying we could face a shortfall. And I think that's only if people just stop using water.
Well, there's a couple of, potentially, right?
Because you have
Water,
a
you're gonna
minimum,
pay- you're gonna
everybody
pay
has a
the
minimum.
And some of that revenue might not be totally recognized, but it'll be incremental, because when we're changing water meters, those, unfortunately, old meters, 25, 30, 40-year-old meters that we're replacing are old mechanical type, and they slow down over time. This is digital, and when you put the new meter in, potentially you're going to be paying a little bit more money. So at the end of the day, we will probably see some incremental on the revenue side. But it's the whole premise is that we're trying to stay away from raising rates. We already gave a bump, and we're just trying to hold the line to see where it goes. We get to the audit, we get to the summertime, we're going to be looking at this stuff monthly, and then producing the quarterly reports that'll be out on the website, and we're going to monitor it. That's, we're trying to we're really doing our due diligence to make sure that there's obviously no wasteful spending. But it's, what goes on at that sewer plant is 100% mechanical, and just maintenance and removal of sludge and the operational O&M of the plant.
All right. The last thing I have on the agenda items, could you just give us an idea what the definition or what's gonna happen with this resolution number 23 with Judge McKay? What is that about?
It's basically a state requirement that we need to just do a resolution. Now, Christine, if you,
It's for the New York State retirement system. Periodically, they like you to renew that justice and their position is a standard workday. They have to have a standard workday in order to calculate how much of their pension will be, accrued to them. So it's a thing that they do now.
Our judges don't have a standard workday though.
Yes, they do.
They
It's gonna
do?
be 8 hours. And it already was in the past, but periodically, they like you to do it again. Apparently, I guess it's a new criteria. Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Eric, you had a question?
Yeah, I just want to elaborate on the question that this gentleman's asking. I think what he's really asking is, we know what we brought in last year based on water and sewer. And in the budget that we're talking about now, we projected almost $70,000 increase in water rents, $150,000 increase in water bulk, almost $200,000 in sewer rents. where did we get those numbers from? Where are we anticipating this increase? Are we anticipating an increase of water usage?
No, that meter is gonna charge you more.
Right.
It's automatically gonna charge you for installation and monthly. Your water bill, if it's standard 58, once you hit a smart meter, it's gonna go up. It's gonna go up. I'm not a resident of the village, and I pay a hundred average a month. And it's only me and my wife. And she puts that laundry outside on the hanger. That's a smart meter.
So is that what we use to determine these increases in these numbers, or where did we come up with the fact that without an increase
It's going up.
in fees this year,
Well, right.
where did we come up with this increase in the projected revenue? That's what you were asking, right, sir?
Well, the revenue, as I explained, from part will be coming from the water meters, because again, they'll be running quicker or normal, and recapturing the actual water usage that is being used, okay? The bulk water, as described, is the Spindler water, which is a revenue code that we really weren't capturing last year, and now we'll be capturing that. So that's another between 150 and potentially close to 200,000 that we'll gain if that, if hauling continues in that mode.
Yeah, that's where the state is looking at the potential for, because they're not seeing where we're coming up with this increase in revenue.
Right.
I'm assuming that's where they, so that was what I think this gentleman was trying to ask,
Right.
to see where we came up with those, and we were determining that difference or
Right.
increase this year versus last year.
Was Randy Moss the- did you- mention that on that one? Cool.
I don't know.
Anthony?
So I got several things. And I'm trying to be understanding as I could about this whole situation. For the Edmonds training, it's a great program. Was anybody trained in how to use that? It just takes a little bit of training on that.
Yeah, so when we received the Edmunds training, Leslie already knows the Edmunds system.
Okay.
We did have some Edmunds training when we installed the water, what they call the utility application module.
Mhm.
That Susan had received hands-on training from Edmunds themselves, and she's currently doing that. And once we fill that position part-time wise, then we'll have training with Edmunds for that person besides everything that Susan has learned
Right.
along the way.
So it's a good program and it can spit those reports out almost on demand. Great
Yeah, no,
program.
it's a really good system, and the way the modules are, and it's also part of, which hasn't, I don't believe they've integrated it into the Edmunds system, but the IPS system, which is the building department
Yeah.
software, it's kind of connected, but I think it's through an interface, it's not
It
integrated.
is doing
At this
interface, but it works very
Yeah,
well.
it still works standalone-ish.
On the smart meters, I'm a fan of the smart meters, because it more accurately reflects what's being used. It also, if you have a leak in your house, it can send you a signal really quickly or something like that.
Yeah.
So my question is, because usually on businesses, they get a larger meter size to be able to capture that revenue, if you will.
Sure.
So I'm curious about that. I'm also curious about the rate of pay for people that are paying their water and sewer bill. Like, are we at 98%? Are most people paying it on time, or? So those two questions on
I
that.
wish Susan was here at the moment, but I want to, any more? Is there any more?
Yes, yeah, I got a couple of things more.
All right, so maybe on the water system, we re-levied more this year than we ever, I don't think this village has ever experienced. And it was, real rough numbers, but somewhere in the $600,000 range. That's why we had sent out sorry?
Times are tough.
Absolutely. It was a big list. And I lost my train of thought for a second there, but yeah, so the number was large. The number previous to that, I want to say last year, was in the neighborhood between $300,000 and $400,000. And that's obviously gets sent off to the county so that we can recoup that money later on in the year or beginning of next, beginning of, somewhere at the end of this year.
But you don't know what our rate is on, how many people are paying, like.
Well, I mean, we can, moving into the first quarter, when we send out this bill, we could probably get that kind of info.
Right,
But just based upon that 600,000, how many homeowners, it was many, many, many pages, and there were some people, we stayed away from people that were $150 or less,
Mhm.
because we just felt that they either, miscalculated, wrote the wrong amount on the check or whatever, so that wasn't the biggest thing. But then I hear too, people do this as an actual way of doing their business. They don't pay their water bill, they let it go onto their taxes and they pay it.
yeah,
So, there's both sides of the coin. I can't say that happens as frequently as people would want. I'm sure, like Vinnie said, it's very tough out there. Everybody's been hammered in every different ways. So, yeah.
so staying with water, so in my experience, just about every year, something breaks in the water department or sewer department. And then when we have, I think they listed 261,000, if revenues are not realized, what happens? Because where does that money come from, or do we just do without? Will there be a big hole on North Street because a water main broke or something?
No.
What
No,
happens?
water mains will be repaired, like
Right.
we've always have. We've saved a tremendous amount of money, probably in the neighborhood of, I'd say $500,000 or so over the last several years, because a contractor was used. So we have brought all that work in-house, and we do, I'll say 90% of it on our own. When necessary, we borrow the towns, with the coordination with them, a vac truck, so we don't have to pay $4,000 to $5,000 for a vac truck, for a rental for a day. And those things, I don't know if you've ever dealt with a vac truck,
Very,
but
very
they're
familiar.
serious pieces of equipment.
Yep.
And you can fix a problem so much faster, there's no waste, there's nothing. So, at the end of the day, you can be confident to know that everything, if it happens, would be repaired, yes.
So I still, when I'm looking at this budget, there are still two things that are a little interesting to me. I still don't really see an area for cost savings and revenue, like where else are we getting the revenue from besides property owners? So that is just something I just really want to be looking at carefully, and I do understand that some things it's not, you don't just let it out in the public, because there are some things that you say, okay, we gotta work on this, and the developers and everything else. So I get that part, but I really want us to keep a focus on getting revenue besides the property owners.
Right.
And there are
So-
ways.
And there is a line, I believe, in the budget that shows, your property revenues. And we're a veteran community. Again, like last month or last meeting, we were 2.5 square miles. And the design was back when everything was built, that the farms were sold, and to build homes. So, you have your downtown area, we have an I zone, we have a good commercial zone. We have a lot of new businesses, things are, seem to be moving in the right direction, which is good for the business owners that own those buildings. Pyramid as well, and Brotherhood Winery, has been doing okay. And as we discussed, the only other piece of property still left is, called the Kazaza Farm. And, that's still kind of going through the planning process and trying to massage that a little bit to figure out what's kind of a good fit based upon everything that was done through the comp plan and what the public was really interested in.
Yeah, and so I do
So we're
understand that.
working towards that.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest non-residential money is our tax revenues from the county, sales tax would be the number. You have your mortgage tax, and we also have our cable franchise taxes, like for charter, right? We received, I think it was about $10,000, So that's our, I'll call third-party revenue stream to supplement whatever everything else that's coming in from the residential stream.
so then two more things, and then that'd be it for me probably. So 14%, that's a lot, especially when we're thinking about our seniors or people who want fixed income. Did we have something besides STAR, which I'm not a fan of the new STAR process? Do we have something in place for our seniors to help them out, like a tax break or something? No.
From the village itself,
Yeah.
I wanna say no, that
Okay.
I'm aware of, other than you have the STAR program, you have the enhanced STAR, that's also available, that's out there. And I've actually been talking just recently to our senator about other types of programs and things that potentially the village could take advantage of to help the senior citizens in a sense of taxes, water, sewer, your utility bill type of things, and see if there's any room for us to create laws that will give us the ability to give some kind of I'll just say a discount.
Yeah.
And that's just conversations right now, just trying to get it done. I know there's also a veterans, but this all goes through the town, because the assessments and all that are handled by Blooming Grove. We used to years ago have an assessor here, and that went to the wayside after I think she left, and then they just moved it up to the town. So there is a veterans discount as well, so, bless you. So, and some of those things, but we are digging into this and trying to understand where we can possibly help the senior citizens.
I had that almost same conversation with our friend, our mutual friend there.
Good. If I could also add just one thing too, we are helping the senior citizens more so at the Stonehill complex right now, because their rates or their rents were gonna go up somewhere in the neighborhood to $80 to $100, which seemed to be like an awful lot of money. So I had reached out to Senator Skoufis, and his office and myself have been meeting with Boulder and Wilder, the owners of that complex, and they own a bunch of them, to figure out, why such a big increase and what they could do to possibly spread it out or reduce it in our initial talk. So some good news is that their rent hike was supposed to take effect February 1. Boulder and Wilder has extended and put it on hold for 30 days so we can continue our negotiations and hopefully, come out in a little bit of a positive light for the seniors that are there, because it is somewhat affordable rent, but their affordable rent, which used to be $500 or $600, like everything else in this world, is now $800 or $900.
Right.
And a lot of them are just on Social Security, which is a challenge. So we're working as hard as we can to help them.
Because it doesn't raise with the
I
cost.
think he's got one more thing.
Right, so then one more thing, then I'll, because I want to give
Sure.
other people time. So the raise, it's really less than 1% of the budget, and I get it, that all of you inherited a mess, and you have to clean up, and actually, when you think about it, it's right in line with what other full-time elected officials for small cities earn, small municipalities, it's right in line.
Right.
And so what I would suggest, because I probably wouldn't take that raise right now, because when you were elected, you kind of knew, like, hey, this is what I'm getting into. This is the
Not really.
situation.
Anthony, not to that extent.
Not to that
We knew
extent.
we were walking into something.
Yeah,
We had our minds kind of thinking about what it was, because we were sitting where you're sitting, and things just didn't seem to be, I don't know, didn't seem right.
yeah,
Right.
I understand, I
So,
understand.
so when you get into office and you find out within the 2 weeks between the election and when you walked in the door to take responsibility, that almost, I don't know,
Yeah.
almost a third of your budget was just taken away from you and written to pass bills from the last 3 or 4 years, that's a punch in the head.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
it,
So,
and and I'm also looking at this, Anthony, for somebody who wants this job. who wants to, you know, number one, you love where you live, right? You
Mhm.
care about your village, you care about everything that goes on, and then you take the extra step and you're doing something like this. But, you know, in today's world, because it is a full-time job, and if someone tried to make this a part-time job, I'll be in that audience screaming, it can't be.
It can't be.
Because it is not.
And so that's where I was gonna go, and just an aside, when I stepped into office, and I've been in office, I was in office for 8 years before I moved here, we had a stack this big from the comptroller and from the state, and we were gonna be shut down, like just shut down. And
Right.
everybody laid off and so, trust me, I've been there, I know.
Yeah.
But and I kinda lost my train of thought with that. I lost my train of thought with it?
You don't like it.
Huh?
You don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it, I wouldn't have done it. I understand.
Right.
Oh, thank you. So what Middletown did was, they had a part-time mayor, and this was still under DeStefano. But then they changed it to a full-time mayor.
Mhm.
That would be one of those ways that says, okay, and so people know, like, this is a full-time, because it really is.
We did do
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
you,
last year.
you did do that?
No, almost 2 years ago.
So now it is a full-time position?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
full
we was
position.
changed to full-time.
Oh, so it's right in line with
Oh,
what
yeah.
full-time?
No, it wasn't, it's not a part-time making, you know, 40, it's a full-time, it's, when we go through the first meeting of the new year, everything is published, it's a full-time mayor job. And anything less would be a real tragedy. Really
It would be.
It would be.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Okay?
What centers do I have to speak to help spread out this increase, like the seniors? What we're doing for the seniors?
Unfortunately, there isn't anything.
Would be
you can
great.
Spread it out.
Anyway, piggybacking off of Anthony about revenues. After the last increase, the large increase we had last year, I brought up the fact, what are we gonna do to generate income? And I gave examples, we're selling water, we're making money on the water, great. We have numerous of short-term rentals within the village that pay no village tax, no village hotel tax. That was an idea I brought up last year. It would be great to implement that over the course of the year, get it in the law, to generate some income, to generate revenue instead of pounding the residents that live here. That was an idea. I put it out last week. When the 20% came, I brought it up. I gave Susan information of other towns that do it. But here we are. We can't even put a law in our book because I don't even know why. I'm still waiting on the irrigation meters. It's been over a year now. Summer's coming. We probably still won't have it by the summer. But we're not, what are we doing to save money? We were basically shutting down the doors when you came in. We got the loan, and I feel like we just keep on spending more money. We haven't done any cost saving. I don't see where we're doing any cost saving. We're spending money because we have it, and we're not doing any cost. We're making the village beautiful, great, I love it, it's amazing, but we're not cutting costs at all. That's my opinion, and that's what I see. Also, the collective bargaining.
Mhm.
How much did we set aside for collective bargaining for the police department?
The amount to pay their back.
How much is that?
I don't have that figure in my head at the moment, but we budgeted back to when the contract expired based upon a 3% increase.
And if it's over 3%, what happens?
Well, it's gonna be 3%. We've already agreed to 3%.
So do we have an agreement? Do we have-
We are working towards it. The two attorneys are gonna be talking next week, or potentially Friday, and hopefully they can finish the attorney pieces of the contract that need to be done. Beyond that, between the PBA and us, we have pretty much formulated the agreement, and once they get through their pieces, then we'll take it to the next step.
And if the members don't agree to that 3%, what happens then?
Well, then, I'd have to ask the PBA presidents and representatives, why? You know, I mean,
He's already talked to them. and
They-
he's agreed.
Those conversations should have been, like, this board knows it was 3%. There's lots of things within it.
You guys can know, but the members of the union.
Well, I
itself
can't
are the ones
answer for that, right?
Exactly.
I
So
can't answer for
That's what I'm
that.
saying. You're saying it's 3%, but they might not agree to 3%.
Well, again, it's the PBA leadership, and I have to rely on them to make sure that they have
Well, he's gonna bring
already
it back to his
had that
members, and I'm sure
discussion
his
with
members
them.
are gonna make that decision now.
I'm sorry?
He's got members that he's got an answer to, he can say.
Absolutely,
You know.
yeah, I mean, again, you know, this
But is that,
percentage,
Dr.
the
Bree, that-
percentages have been somewhat formulated for a period of time. This wasn't decided yesterday or the day before. There's been more technical things that need the attorney language and that portion of it. So I will confidently say that that Joe and Tom have already talked to the membership about the percentages. Because we had that conversation last week to say, is there anything else in this contract that we're good, or gonna change? Is there anything else? We just took the sections that the attorneys need to attorneyize and let them do their conversation. Otherwise, the rest of that contract was where it needed to be. They agreed, we agreed.
All right, I'm just gonna reiterate, we need to find ways to generate revenue instead of hammering the residents every time. And there's ways out there, and I don't think we're utilizing it. We're not doing any cost cutting. I see us spending money nonstop, even though we're in financial straits. You know, we need to start saving money. That's all I gotta say.
Well, I mean, you got water, you got sewer, maintenance stuff obviously needs to be done. DPW needs to operate and run, you know, and I get it that we need to save money, and I don't think we're running on a budget that's so tight, just like a lot of the other municipalities out there, because there isn't, and why? Because we're not really getting what we used to get potentially from the state. They're either throwing unfunded mandates at you, oh, by the way, you gotta do this now. And who's paying for it? Oh, you are. Oh, you're gonna be doing, and you gotta, oh, who's gotta figure that out? Oh, you do. I mean, I've been to meetings where they said, if you want it almost like tax air, go ahead. And when the most ridiculous things I've ever seen or ever heard. And we're not running around spending money like, you know, it's wildfire. We try to do the life and safety things, we try to take care of the roads. If not, then we could be liable because we're not making repairs, but we want, obviously, keep the village nice, but if you don't keep up with your repairs, you're gonna be somewhat in the same situation over the last umpteen years, where there was really no projects done except in 18, where one big road and a small road was done, but that was it. And there's just a lot of roads. We have like 31 cul-de-sacs. Most of them need to be redone. Curb work, sidewalks. It's enormous. And I'm trying to find grants and working with the senator's office to see what we can drum up. We talked about the AIM, right, the assistance. What did that give us? $8 grand. Oh, thanks. I mean, it's almost like you need it more than I do. And they haven't modified it, and they're supposed to be putting a task force together to reevaluate it, to work out the calculations so they can't even understand what the hell they probably even wrote, to know why one village is getting 200,000, the other village is getting $8,000. How did that calculation work? Was it the old boys network, or was it something, a real formula? And it needs a formula. So, trust me, we're watching the money. It's just, you know, we could sit there and not spend a dime and everybody sits on their rear ends, but you know, everything around you is gonna fall apart. And if you don't, it's maintenance, you gotta do the certain things.
So I just wanted to add, Senator Skoufis did pass a hotel tax for municipalities upstate. So that is on the books. And then if you're doing the rental registry, which I think I saw that on one of the minutes somewhere, if you do the rental registry, it'll work hand in hand with each other, because then you'll say, okay, these are the properties that are Airbnbs or whatever, and then
Yeah.
you can get those as a revenue source.
Yeah. We have still been talking about that, believe it or not, Vinnie. And I did talk to Susan yesterday about the meters, however that was gonna be worded. And I'll follow up with Chris after the meeting, and I'll help out in that matter. Yes, Edie?
So I don't lose track, but briefly, there may be more space appropriate for Airbnbs as the trail comes through. That was just thought, but the main point I wanted to ask is there space in the IP for more building or buildings or empty businesses there that the village could help promote to get busy?
Are you talking along the trail?
No, I'm talking about the industrial park, your.
Oh, the industrial park area, which is right here.
Yeah,
Okay.
are we making the best use of that, or could it be promoted more?
Well, currently, I want to say there's only one piece of property that's undeveloped at the moment, where I think it used to be called Coleman's Gas, at the end of Pollock, when they moved or were bought out by Suburban. So somebody had bought the property, they have it. You know, on a positive note, you have Aurora Chemical, you know, the flavoring business. They own the Spindler property, so they're gonna be in the process of developing that. They have plans in the works to put up 2 additional buildings and, you know, increase their business and increase, you know, the use of the I-zone.
So you'll be getting additional revenue from that?
Correct.
But just to piggyback on that, I know you mentioned the rail trail, absolutely, people may use it for that.
Yeah.
Currently now, the rentals, the short-term rentals within this village are booked up throughout the year, all year round. West Point, close, a lot of alumni, family members, they stay in Washington, believe it or not, because you can't get anything else closer. That's how booked up they are.
Okay.
But they are booked up, so that's revenue that's guaranteed to you guys and us.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Did somebody, Eric?
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. When you first presented the budget, you had a gentleman on the screen from and he said that he was gonna look into how much the state was say that we could add in contingency within the budget. Because, you know, we're budgeting for whatever the number, and we're, according to the budget that we're presenting, we're spending every piece of revenue that we expect to take in, except for, I guess, according to the comptroller, who said they were low, was 75,000 in the general fund and 20,000 in the other funds. Did he ever get back to us to give us a number that the state would be okay with us trying to maybe increase those contingencies to? So if we do have problems, if the police, you know, contract does become more than 3%, or we do have additional water issues, that we have something in the budget where we don't have to go and face another double-digit tax increase next year? I mean, you know, I think Vinny, the gentleman over here, said it right. We can't, if you run a household and you made $60,000, you're not gonna budget to spend $60,000. There's gotta be something to either increase your $60,000 and put money aside, or ways to try and find to cut some of the smaller things. And I understand, we have roads and we have things that need to get done, but there are other projects, or there are other positions that we may be able to save a couple bucks more, or be able to put a little more aside on, that we really need to look into.
Yep.
I mean, there's multitude of ways that we can generate additional revenues within the
Well,
village.
and again, running I want to say a tight ship, and you're watching your dollars, right? At the end of the day, you can be not spending all the money. I mean, they want to see it balanced, right, at the end of the day. So your revenues are going to match your expenditures. But if you don't obviously spend everything you have, then you have a fund balance. So that fund balance, if it's in the A fund, will be used to create funds for future things. If you needed to buy a truck, or you wanted to do roads, you can put them in dedicated funds. That's the beauty, or where we want to be. Because years ago, I would do roads, and I never borrowed any money, because we had the contingency, and it was continuing. So we were ahead of the curve, and that's where we want to go. And I believe we're getting there. It's a struggle and a half, because last year you were at 22%, this year you're at 14 something. Next year, you know, tightening our belts, we're trying to take care of staff at a part-time status. There'll be really nothing else happening in there until someone feels like, oh, you know, it's time to maybe elevate one of those positions potentially to a full-time. But you know, if we can get these people in place, we'll be able then to run this office the way it was and potentially staff, but only part-timers, again, back in the 90s. So I hear exactly what you're saying, and I think the savings for us is being a little bit frugal and not obviously trying to spend every dollar because it's there. We don't, we,
But did they get back to you and give you
no,
what?
we didn't, I have to reach back to
Okay.
him.
And then my second question, follow-up, is where are we at with the current budget? Are we under, over, and by what type of percentage? You know, we've been,
We can pull that info for you, we
Get
don't have,
that for you, I don't have that in front of me right this second, but I can provide that to you.
I got a question.
yeah.
I got a question.
I just need your name and address.
Sure. I live at 193 Woodcock Mountain Road. I'm
Mhm.
outside the village.
Right.
Okay? But, my name is David Schuyler.
Mhm.
You just said that every position here is a part-time position, right?
Except our clerk,
Except the clerk, she's full-time.
yes.
So you really believe you deserve 166% raise?
If you look at it at the percentage,
Yeah.
yes, yes, I do.
You do on a part-time job?
No.
Well, as we said earlier, we said I'm full-time.
Oh, you're.
Because you know what, we're elected, I look at
Correct.
full-time being, you know, a
She's
permanent
full-time,
civil
you're
service
full-time.
position,
And the other ones are part-time,
and
correct?
yes, part-time
I
around
know you
the,
probably do more than 20 hours a week. I get that. I get that. Times are
I do
tough.
more than 20 at night.
So why are you going for such a high increase in a percentage on the raise? Why can't you take a normal percentage raise, just like everybody else does at work? They get maybe a 3% raise or 5% raise.
Well,
And why
because
don't you
the,
bring this back up to vote on the following year? Did this get voted on already or not?
we're voting, well,
Tonight.
we've had the public hearing, it's gonna get voted in tonight,
Tonight?
yes.
You were supposed to read it 3 times though, right? Or just you?
No,
once?
we had the public hearing, it was published, the information was out there on
Okay.
the web and every place else
Okay.
that we needed to do it. So, yeah, I mean, we struggled with this even at the last year.
I get it.
And, you know, again, it's all about the percentage, right? When, again, if you go to salary.com, check it out, this 40K is lower of the medium salaries.
What other jobs do you
Okay.
have, if you mind me asking?
Not at all. And you're welcome to shadow me any day.
No, what
Anything.
other jobs that you have income coming in?
Oh, you mean outside of this?
Yeah.
None. The only,
Are you
I do,
retired?
just for clarity, I have a real estate license
Okay.
and I have a home inspector license, okay?
Are you collecting a pension
Oh, yeah.
from somewhere else?
Yeah, I'm retired.
From where?
Where am I retired from? I was a longtime employee at the time Orange Regional Medical Center.
Okay.
And I had a small pension at a consulting outfit in the city that I worked for a while.
City of Newark?
City, New York City.
New York.
Yeah, I was an IT person. So that was my jobs. And years ago, when I was mayor in the 90s, I came to the office, you weren't here at the last meeting, so I repeat myself, but, you know, I would come to the office at 6, be in my
Okay.
office by 8:30,
But
because it was a
you
part-time
ran.
job.
But here you go, you guys ran for this position.
Yeah,
For this public
Yeah.
office.
but you know what, the
And
other,
times were real tough these past couple of years.
yeah,
To put the burden on the village taxpayers is a lot right now to ask for.
yeah.
And I'm surprised this meeting hall's not packed.
Well,
Because if that.
if I could tell you how many positive calls we've had about people saying that you deserve what you're asking for, you know, it's, I'd say it's more than people that have said no.
you're
You know,
going
because,
from-
you know, the problem is when you're not making a lot of money and you do an increase, that percentage rate looks like, you know, 10,000%, and I'm just about making $1 million. But, right, but if
40 grand
I'm
a year,
making
you barely buy
150
toilet
and I
paper,
said
you know what I mean?
3%, no one's gonna bark at it, right? That's just the logistics of the number plus a percentage.
Okay,
So-
I get that you're gonna most likely get that raise, okay? But why is it stipulated the other part-timers get that amount too?
They don't. The
Am I reading that
part-timers,
wrong?
the people, no, the trustees make a different salary, a part-time salary versus what the mayor is proposed to make.
So why is it showing on the internet that if you get the 166% raise, Sarah's saying on the internet,
And,
that the other two people are gonna get a 10,000 raise or
no,
from 12 to
No.
These were from
15,000
10,000 to 12,500.
yeah,
to 12,500.
yeah, to 25.
The other two, though, those are part-timers, right?
All right, so
You're
this,
the only full-time,
government
and she's
structure.
the only full-time.
government structure, you have the mayor, full-time, 4 trustees, part-time.
And deputy.
And then there's a deputy mayor, which is Donna at the moment.
When's the last time they passed an outside audit?
Well, we've been doing since an outside audit, that's a funny thing. So you have to understand, there hasn't been, and there wasn't an audit done for, say, over 6 years, okay? So when we got into office, the reason the interest was sparked was because there were no audits, there were no, what they call at the time, AFR reports that are supposed to go to the state on an annual basis. And then the big crux is in 2020, Moody's removed our bond rating. So without the village having audits, reporting anything to New York State, Moody's didn't know what the hell to do with us. Excuse me. So they removed the bond rating. So we got into office and we went to the point of knowing that audits needed to be done. And so in the last 2 years, we've done 21 audit, the 22 audit, 23 is almost done, and the 24 audit just started. All that's going on, and these AFR reports have been submitted, at least, what, all of them,
All through 2024.
up to 24.
As a previous mayor, he was corrupt as hell.
No comment,
Just the previous one.
excuse me. But, yeah, there was a lot of things. So, just so you know, audit-wise, we had the state in here when we first got in, because we were begging them to come in here and give us an audit. We wanted a forensic audit, but they weren't gonna do a forensic audit. So then taking the path of just doing normal audits, besides what New York State started to do, we had 2 accounting firms, one coming in and to pull all the data together, because there was nothing on a computer system. Everything was paper. And that just turned out to be a big debacle. Then we have a second firm, accounting firm, who was actually doing the audits, okay, based upon what this other firm was gathering to potentially create the paperwork to give an audit, okay? Then at the same time, because we had to borrow the money to survive, and because we were broke, we would have no money in the bank as of 23 of October. October 23, there wouldn't have been any money left, because the previous mayor had spent $1.6 million, shortfalling us to get to the end of the year. So when we borrowed that money, now all of a sudden we're under the microscope of New York State Comptroller's Office. So for 10 years, while we pay back these loans, we will be audited every quarter. Leslie has to submit our financial reports that are scrutinized. We just got done with a deficit audit by New York State just the other day. That was some of the comments that were thrown on the state website. We knew that it was coming, but we didn't know they were just gonna throw it up. I got an email saying, oh, by the way, that the report's up there. So we didn't get a chance to respond to it. After we read it, we took their letter, we responded with our comments, because some of them were pretty rash in some ways, you know. But we wanted to at least explain our side of the story. We did, and we put that on the website as well. So we've been through hell in a handbasket for the last 2 years, and hopefully within the end of this year, we'll be done with everything and we'll know exactly where we stand, and come June, we'll figure out exactly what kind of money we need to definitely borrow on a long-term basis until we can dig ourselves out of this hole.
Well, how much you bonded for this year?
2.6 million, originally started at 4.4 million. And all that had to be done by going to our Senate and Assembly
Yeah, 90 days.
and having
January. So
laws created and passed and signed by the governor to get us to that point that we could even borrow the money. Then you had to find somebody who was able to then give us, to basically give us the loan. And there were 2 banks. And finally, one bank said nope. And for whatever reason, the other firm said yes. If they didn't say yes, we were toast.
And what was the percentage on that bond?
7. And we're at 6 now. So we've, in good faith, we've been paying our stuff, and things are getting better. And once we're able to, and once the state has the other audits, and we go for the permanent bond, then we're hoping we could be somewhere, hopefully, between 4 and 5. Or whatever the current market's gonna be bearing at that particular point. But we've been paying our sewer bonds on time, we've been paying the deficit bonds on time, we've been, with the Edmund system, we pay our bills every 2 weeks, and, you know, it's working.
Yeah, because me and my wife, we moved from Cornwall, taxes get crazy.
Yeah,
We came here and we're doing the same thing.
yeah. Now, living in the town, your budget is calendar.
Correct.
So when your budget comes up, it's generally in the October, November timeframe,
Yep.
when they have their public hearings and so forth. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thanks for coming in. Okay. Anybody else? If not, then we will run down just some announcements and discussions, some of the stuff we've had, just some progress. As we mentioned, the downtown business area, we have been working on a grant. The grant is continuing down the road, but we are now pulling the DOT permits to potentially anticipate the trees and the lighting for downtown, so that process is moving along, unfortunately slow. The next project downtown is our E.J. McLaughlin for lighting and security cameras and so forth. We've reached out to the electricians to get the poles up and get stringing the lights and getting the wiring in place so we can have that done hopefully before spring arrives. And then the downtown businesses in the E.J. Square area could utilize the lights and that square, and having plans of potentially closing the parking lots on weekends. They can have dinners and stuff like that on the parking lot area. Sorry?
You know, Jim McLaughlin, the
Yeah,
village
The
itself.
village does, yes.
And so the electrician, we got to.
Yes,
Does that go out?
but I also, I got this on the next meeting, but I put in for a grant for the $9,000. We had a grant from Greene County Bank last year for the crosswalk lights for the school at Taft. They'll be installed in the spring. And so I'm looking to get a grant for $9K to cover the cost of that electricity.
Tom, I'm sorry. Does that include the parking lot? Do we own the parking lot, or is that part of the businesses?
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
And EJ Square, EJ McLaughlin Square, the parking lot that's associated with that?
Yes, yes.
We own that? The village owns that,
Yes,
or the
we own
business
that.
own that?
Yeah, we own.
So do we charge the businesses for closing that down?
Well, if anything, I'm trying to look at it as a positive for the businesses to bring more people into the village, and people.
And where are they gonna park?
They can park across the street at the library, they can park at our village parking lot across the street, and we have our village lot next to, across the street from the pharmacy.
So we're gonna give up village property and allow the businesses there to generate additional revenues for themselves that aren't gonna come and give anything back to the village. See, if they wanna close it down, charge them a $500 permit fee. Something like that, it's another way for us to generate revenue.
Well,
He's talking about doing it on the weekends, in the spring and summer.
Like for a couple of hours or something.
I like this guy.
we are having that conversation about permits and so forth. We have meetings scheduled to have those conversations and see where that can go. You know, we talked about this last time. If we go too high, Eric, then no one's gonna get involved because they're gonna say, you guys are out of your minds. I can go anywhere else. It doesn't cost me anything or a small fee. And the organizations that are doing it obviously are gonna make some money. But at the end of the day, you tip the scale, it could get worse. So part of what we're discussing is, you know, those organizations that wanna do these things, they gotta supply when it's necessary, their own security and things along those lines to, and clean up have them clean up their own garbage, stack it. We don't mind picking it up on Monday and putting it in our dumpsters, but at the end of the day, put a little bit more onus and try to reduce the overtime on our side, to hopefully in a way save money too. So, gotcha. Let's see. One thing we're looking at is potentially a community paper shredding day and sometime in April. We are going through the second floor right now and there's a bundle of old, outdated papers, some that have been damaged by the floods that were out there in 2011. So there'll be more to come on that. It would probably be at this parking lot, and anybody who had any material that they would like to, confidential stuff that you would like to shred, they could come down and get that done. We're still in conversations about the basketball court and the skateboard. I have asked Susan to get a couple more quotes from different vendors in regards to the other quote that came in fall and summertime, so we can potentially hit the ground running in the spring again with that. We already talked about the quarterly budgets and the letter from the state in regards to the comments and responses. Just an FYI, holidays coming up right for President's Weekend, so that Monday will be closed the 16th, so the meeting will be the 17th at 7 o'clock. And for anybody who's interested in water, our wells are at 25 feet 8 inches. And as we discussed previous meetings, Spindler is falling water currently.
25 feet, they got worse?
I'm sorry?
They got worse, the wells?
No, they were at 24, 25, that's where they've been hanging. Yeah. Yeah, with just a little bit of snow, it might.
Speaking of the spillage, since you brought it up, another way to generate more money, I know you wanna hire an employee, fine, buy a tanker. Let's get into the water business, sub it out for a driver, there's plenty of on-the-road drivers that will pick up that tanker and we can sell the water ourselves. Just generating more money for the village, just saying.
You still gotta pay registration, maintenance, and all that on top of it.
Not if you sub it in and out, that's his job. We buy the tanker, he comes and picks it up and we deliver. That's just generating revenue, instead of wholesaling it out. Let's get the whole income in there and generate money for the village.
Okay. Let's see, so the meeting, the wells, okay. Moving on to resolutions. Let's see, so we have to authorize present electrical inspector list for the year 2025 and approve the addition of Yuri Badovich to the Village of Washingtonville General Electrical Inspector list. So that came from a memo from our building department, Jeannie Ovison, and all the appropriate paperwork is attached. Can I have a motion, please? Have a second? Any questions, comments? All in favor? Motion passes. Resolution 250020 to approve the employment of Cynthia Sullivan as part-time afternoon clerk for the Village Hall reception area at a salary of $28 per hour. Have a motion, please? Steve, any questions, comments? And just for the record, she will be starting next Monday. All in favor? Motion passes. Resolution 250021 to adopt the Village of Washingtonville proposed fiscal year 2025-26 general water sewer budgets. Have a motion? Steve, second. Vernon? Questions, comments? All in favor? Motion passes. One absent. Resolution 25022 to declare surplus and no value to the Village of Washingtonville Police Department a 2016 Ford Interceptor police vehicle, identification number 1FM5K8AR 80, I'm sorry, let me repeat the whole thing. 1FM5K8AR8GGA 72234. It has 94,114 miles and was placed out of service due to a transmission and mechanical issues. Motion? Steve, second. Vernon, questions, comments? All in favor? Motion passes, one absent. Resolution 250023 to approve the New York State Retirement Standard Workday for elected official justice Joseph McCabe to be 8 hours a day. Motion? Donna, motion, second on Steve. Question, comments? All in favor? Motion passes 001. Resolution 250024 to authorize budget transfers and amendments as necessary to effect necessary transfers of funds and to pay village warrants. Have a motion? Steve on the motion, second. Brian? Any questions, comments? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0 and 1 absent. Yeah. And just for the numbers in the general fund, the total for this 2-week period is $67,500.49. Majority of this is salt, since we've been having a lot of, not major stuff, but a lot of areas where salt and wet and freezing weather. But salt, as we get deliveries, is in the neighborhood of, we had one at $5,200, delivery of another $5,200, another one $7,000. So salt is not cheap, and it's obvious it is under bid some. Again, it was $67,580.49. For water, the bills for this 2-week period was $11,443.96. And for sewer, $18,353.80. There's information. Okay. All right, so that brings us to general public comment. If anyone has anything? Paul?
I have a question, it's been brought up over the years. Maybe we can get, you mentioned Scoop is his name, maybe we can get him involved. Is there any reason why I can go to Vales Gate and buy gasoline 28 cents a gallon cheaper than our 2 stations? You wanna buy local, you wanna buy in the village,
Yeah.
but 28 cents a gallon difference at the Citgo, the Valero, and the Gulf in New Windsor compared to this guy. If I go down even to Cumberland, I went down to Cumberland Farms today because it was 25 cents a gallon cheaper. I mean, these guys are, I don't know, and it's Stewart's and Sunoco.
Yeah, we'll check into that and see how the pricing structure works on that.
Has it, you know, what's the definition of price gouging? You can go to Chester by the highway and it's cheaper.
Yeah.
It's
I was
usually more
someplace,
expensive.
where was I the other day? I was in Newburgh, town of Newburgh. It was a station, kind of all by itself, and they were gouging. It was like $3.48
Yeah, the one
for regular.
in Highland Falls
Yeah.
has always been like mobile.
It's
Yeah.
But this is, I mean, 28 cents is a big difference.
Yep, no, you're right. We'll check into it. There's gotta be some, I don't know, maybe there isn't, but maybe they can just charge whatever they want based upon even what they're told from the
Probably
gasoline
the same
company.
trucks that's delivering to
Yeah.
that guy in New Windsor.
It always strikes me, though, you're right. I always wonder why one of them would not drop it
Exactly.
15 cents.
Stewards, yeah.
I mean, they'd run out of gas,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't go to the other guy. And maybe that's the game too. I mean, because they're always the same price, there's never even, we're a penny apart.
Yeah, exactly,
I mean,
yeah.
it's craziness. But I know, I go to Gulf all the time and down the road, Sinclair, I think it is, at the corner of, I don't remember the name of the road, as you're getting into.
Oh, Ford
heading
Hill,
toward-
Ford Hill.
Yeah, Ford Hill, yeah.
Legally,
Right
Uh,
there.
it doesn't fall under New York's price gouging
Oh, no?
laws. I'm looking at the law right here, and it has to be an unconscionably excessive price due to some event, like snow, or war, or a storm, or something like that. Think like if a major winter storm or hurricane came through and they raised prices by $2 a gallon.
Thanks.
The problem is, as long as people go there, they're gonna keep doing
There you
it.
go, yeah.
Until we band together as a village and take our business elsewhere,
Lazy.
they're gonna keep doing it. And then the two of them are gonna be in cahoots because they're not gonna undercut one another.
Years ago, what they used to
Pretty
do
much
was have
what
one
you
gas
said.
station here and buy one across the street. It looked like they were competitors, but they were the same guy on the bill.
All right. Anything else, Benny?
Last meeting, a few other meetings before that, you guys mentioned the statistics on the speed camera that we
Yeah.
put up at different locations. I guess when we go towards Brian, it's great, we got the data, we got the statistics. What kind of follow-up enforcement are we doing after the fact? After we get that information, what are we doing with that information? Just, because today, I was out running, I should run around with a dash cam on my forehead, because it's out of control. Like, are we doing proactive enforcement once we get that data, like last month, I think it was Capital?
Yeah,
Are we doing any enforcement from that data
well, I
at
know that
those
they were,
targeted locations?
I'll let the chief answer that for you.
I wouldn't say it's out of control, but you can ride with me any day you want, and you can radar on.
I'm not working with you.
But,
He won't put you in handcuffs.
so the instrument we bought gives us, the amount of cars, trucks, it breaks it down, and also gives us the violations of 9 or 10 or 15, whatever we do. And then it gives us the best times to enforce, and that's what we've been doing on our phone right now. So far, when we're done with that, we transition to Capital, projects on the time. And basically, the times on Capital are rush hours, from 7 to 9. So we'll hit those, but that's what we do. We give it a few weeks, and we just change the number location.
Alright. Well, I see the guy in 800 once in a while sitting in the parking lot
I
there.
told him work for you. I'm waiting for you. I've seen it. I've seen it. You gotta slow down.
I don't want that.
Can't run that fast, man. Yes,
How you
sir.
doing?
Can you also, again, your name and,
My name is David Scott. You were talking about this system of speed trap, right? You wanna generate, revenue? Put a camera on top, take a picture of the license plate of the driver, send them a ticket.
I'm down for that.
It'll happen so fast, people will slow down. New York City, it's all over the place. You can go on your phone and it'll tell you exactly where they're at. And they slow down.
That'd be a big one.
I mean, it doesn't take much. I don't know how much money you put into that, speeding on it. It doesn't cost that much. Put a camera on there, take a picture of the license plate, and it'll grab who's driving.
I'm out there every day and I see it. I've almost got hit by a car. I've been out there. It's crazy.
no, I agree. I used to do my mountain biking on the road, no more,
No, I would.
no more.
I say this,
Can't,
I say this to the board a lot. Unfortunately, the developments, it's us speeding ourselves. And
It's unfortunate that we gotta enforce our
It's
own.
not like you had outsiders driving on Decker Drive, mostly not. It's our own people speeding and blowing stop signs from our own community. And they get tickets, then they come complain to me that they got a ticket, they lived here, their taxes are high. It's like a it's
They gotta suck it up.
Yeah.
I don't know how a speeding ticket relates to taxes, but at the end of the day,
Well, I think
you just gotta, and especially spring's coming. And we all know it, warmer weather and what that brings. Windows down, music's loud, and everybody's racing around. Still need to check into these speed bumps sometimes,
Yeah.
because we go into some municipalities and they have speed bumps. So, Mr. Attorney, we need to find out, are speed bumps legal or not legal? And I know there's a liability because of a speed bump, but I think in Westchester, like Ardsley, and some of these other towns, they actually have speed bumps on their public roads.
Well, it depends on the road, we're not gonna be doing it on the state highway.
No, not state highway. No, but, state highway is 50, coming to 40, you hit 30, and we have police monitoring that stuff. But a speed bump is a different, Newcastle.
I don't know what happened.
Right, Brian? Didn't we have speed bumps in Newcastle?
And then if you guys not paying attention now, the speed bump
Anybody
that
remember?
stops some roads from speeding and ruins $150,000 snow trial.
Yeah, that's right, the mobile home park has it.
I'm sorry?
That's private roads?
Just to give you it's the traffic study, that instrument costs like $4,000, we just got it this year, I'm sorry, 2024. But on capital, if I remember, I think it was 3 to 6% of people were speeding, so it is a high number, but if you look at it, that's I think 9 miles an hour over anybody, so it's not a huge number, but it is a number, but that's how we look at it, okay, it's 3% of people speeding on capital compared to another road, that might be 20%. So we kind of use those figures to figure out where to.
Just tell the people that are getting tickets and volunteer for it, that's all.
Well,
And revenue, again, sitting here, I know the guy, one of the people that organized the Warwick Food Truck Festival. Now, I know you're the village board and it's the events committee, but we were charging, last time I knew, $35 for a food truck at any of our events down here, the events committee. I know in Warwick, at the Warwick Food Truck Festival, it's 1,000 and there's a number in front of it. It's a lot of money they charge those food trucks. Because they really do make that money.
Okay.
do you know who runs that event?
There was a guy from the Knights of Columbus, Mike, I'll get his name.
But he's from Warwick?
Yeah. They do on that field back there, and it was, when he told me what they get per truck, oh! Part of the Knights of Columbus over there that run it actually.
So
But
the
that's
Knights
who we,
of Columbus gets the money, then, not the town.
no. Yeah, but what they're charging, and compared to what we charge.
Well, if you could get that information, that'd be helpful.
The town's probably charging the nights for.
And they are,
for it,
yes.
And then the nights are really covering it by charging.
But they
the
would
food
charge
truck.
for the permit.
Is that
Right.
just for the Apple Festival? For all, did they?
No, they have this in
This
June,
is
they have one in
Yeah, this
June.
is just a food truck.
This is just a food truck festival, they put them in a big circle.
Yeah, Monroe had one
Yeah,
last
right.
year, the year before.
Yeah,
The
so you
prices
might- I
are
bet-
not 1,000 though, because we looked it up for each food truck, it's like 225 for the weekend, we looked it up.
You do?
Yeah.
In Warwick?
Yes, for the world,
Okay.
yes, because we're looking for our, like to compare.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know, because I know a lot of them that we've spoken to is about around $100 a truck.
We were like 35 for a long time, I don't know what we are now.
As a.
Not, well, we haven't done anything like that.
No, not us,
Yeah.
but the events.
Oh, okay.
Right, so as a food truck vendor, that's one part of our business, there's a certain threshold that we are just not going to pay. But we will pay, and we understand,
Right.
but there's a certain threshold where for us, it just doesn't make economic sense unless we can have that many customers in as a
Sure.
guarantee.
Absolutely.
Because once you figure out our food costs, our gas costs, or this or that and everything else, we have to, it's a certain threshold. But the other thing, I've also done events, so, when I do those events, we usually have to pay for the police, from the event, who's ever organizing that. We do pay for the police, or we get our own security. So that's just one way, you know, and then we do pass that cost on to other people who want to be at that event with us. Or, you know,
So
if we
you
have a
would share
DJ
the
or something
overtime
else.
cost for the police officers
We
across
spread that
all
out
the
to
trucks,
yep, we spread it
everybody
out.
that's there.
So if we get 10 trucks, we're, you know, we're good, because we spread it out, so it's not painful.
I guess
People
the size of
understand.
the event matters too, right?
It does.
Because if you get 8 guys on
Yeah.
overtime, that could even, you know, that could blow you out of the water too.
But usually what we find is one or two police officers to do traffic, and then if something happens,
Right.
they can call someone then that's not.
Yeah, on regular patrol,
Yeah.
right. Yes.
So, Justine Mayorino, 9 Ocean Avenue, so we are the events committee here, so we know there's been a lot of back and forth about events, so we're here to answer any questions anyone has. So as far as the police overtime and things like that, we do things to help the village. So we do hire private security for these events. We also have a private sanitation company that comes in to assist the DPW in cleanup. We've been out there till 2 o'clock in the morning, also assisting with cleanup, so we do clean up the areas. So there are things that we pay for as a committee, we're not under the village. We're all volunteers here, so we volunteer our time. We do charge vendors in order to bring these events on. I know there was a vote to see if people still wanted the events, and it was a yes. We were asked to run these events. So we do spend our own time and a lot of our own money also to do these events. So if there's anybody has any ideas or anything, we're here to listen and work with you guys, because we feel like events bring in new faces to the village. We have several new businesses that have come to the village because they've been at events and because they see what the village does. So if there's any questions or concerns, that's why we're sitting here.
So does any of the money you guys generate from running these events get given or pushed to the village?
So in terms of hiring private security, it helps them cut the hours.
They don't have to
So
pay overtime.
we sit with the first responders at every event and go over, like, how can we help, like, how can private security help you guys lessen this? How can we do parking? How can, we'll have, you know, Orange County Disposal come in and help the DPW clean up. So we do work with them on every single event.
We are in discussion with the council to working out a fee somewhere along the way to help mitigate overtime costs as well.
And it's more of a long-term solution. You have to think big. I know everybody wants, oh, what did the village make on this event? Think about the people that these events bring in and the businesses that they bring in. Think about Warwick, think about Beacon, and what are they doing differently than us? So I know that's how much money, sometimes you have to think long-term, and it's not the easy answer, but
Oh, listen, don't get me wrong, I don't expect us to make $1 million an event, but if I can make $20 from every vendor in an event, to help offset village taxes, 14% increases,
and again, we work with the village.
it's
I
a
believe
help,
we're the only
you
ones
know.
doing that, we're doing private security, doing cleanup. We're all very busy, we're all volunteers, we have businesses, and like my wife said, we're out there till 2 in the morning. And then we're waking up the next morning with a business and doing another event.
You also have to look at it this way. What we charge our vendors that come into these events and participate is also rolled through into the next event. If we start giving that money away willy-nilly, we will not have these events.
All the fact,
Well,
these
I mean-
vendors are making money though, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
All right?
Well, they're there to make money.
They're
If they weren't, they wouldn't be at the
And
event.
these events are getting bigger and bigger. There's a lot of people that aren't village residents coming to the village
Right, that's right.
to spend their money.
Exactly.
So these guys, those vendors, they're generating money.
Mhm.
They could afford a little bit more money. That's what he's just trying to say. He's not saying hit them over the head, but
There's a fine line, and again, we're not the Warwick Apple Fest.
no, absolutely not. I'm not saying we're there yet, but listen, our
No, but,
our
you know,
events
as a
are
village resident, when we're being inconvenienced to the point that we can't drive down roads, half the village is being shut down for these events, and the village is getting nothing, not a penny. We're incurring overtime costs. We're putting police officers in jeopardy for providing security, public safety, all of these things, all of the village resources are being used to assist us, and nothing is coming out back into the village.
Can I ask you something? Are you coming to these events to enjoy them?
I've gone to some and I've avoided some.
Which ones have you avoided?
I avoid a lot of stuff down at Vern Island just because of the inconvenience of it.
I I mean, we bring a
I
lot, we
mean-
try to bring a lot of stuff into the actual village, because honestly, it helps the businesses, and if you don't have a thriving Main Street in any town, then the town
You
is up.
don't have a
We
village.
don't have a bill.
And it's,
There's 2 events a year that are held in Grand Island. That's 2 times a year, out of 365 days that you're in committees, that's not a lot.
I mean,
But
the
again,
July 4th
what
event-
is coming back to the village out of that? If we shut down, when the New York City Marathon shuts down streets throughout the entire city of New York, the New York City Roadrunners, the corporate sponsors pay the city of New York for shutting down those roads. Pay for
Corporate
sanitation,
sponsors. We don't
pay
have
for
corporate sponsors.
We don't have-
law
We
enforcement.
don't have corporate
They
sponsors.
pay for all
well,
of it.
I'll tell you one thing that the events have brought in, 4 new businesses that are thriving in this village. And I was personally told that it was because of the events, because of the changes in Washingtonville, that's why we came. And they came from Cornwall, they came from New
I
York
mean,
City.
those villages,
Chase
those,
Bank
they pay
is one of
taxes,
them.
so there's a lot of empty storefronts
So
that are now being
it's not an
built,
easy answer.
and they're paying taxes.
But you gotta like think outside the box a little and think long term. Think about the thriving villages and main streets, and they're doing these
I
events
mean,
all the
listen,
time.
we work 12 hours in our store, and then work another whatever hours on the event, so if people don't want the event,
Yeah,
we
but
don't
it's-
have to
I don't think anybody here said that they don't necessarily want
Right,
the
you
event.
don't-
We're just looking for ways to utilize these events to help the village and
And that's what
prevent,
we're doing.
prevent the average
We
person.
work with the village, and I said, that was a concern last year. We brought in private security. We pay for cleanup.
we
We pay for
bands,
porta
we
johns.
pay for portage.
And then that's, yeah, we're paying for all the
Right, the porta
entertainment.
potties.
So,
I think a few key things to keep in mind as well is when he's talking about us paying for all the money that's going towards this is not coming from the town. It's all being fundraised and coming out of our own individual pockets. The 5 of us that you see here are the core people putting on all these events. That means it's the people setting it up for days, building everything, cleaning up, dealing with all the vendors. Outside of that as well, as was mentioned earlier, the events are getting bigger and bigger. Thousands and thousands of people are coming in. That's sales tax. That sales tax is also going back into the state and into the local economy, which is also helping us with town revenue. So even though it's not money.
You're telling me these vendors are all charging sales tax and paying the state? No, they're not. They're taking cash off the books at those things.
There's
and-
businesses in
Of
this
course, there are some
town
businesses
that are
take
making
cash
money.
events. I mean,
There's
All of them are
inspectors.
getting charged sales tax, local tax. All of that goes back into the local economy.
I was saying a lot of the vendors use Square, and that just automatic.
Automatic.
Yeah, that's automatic.
Correct.
I got a question for you. When you go to these other events, because you're in a committee and that's what you guys do for business, because you're getting, your kickbacks and all that, like, not kickbacks.
Kickbacks.
I got a backache, I got a backache.
You're getting compensated for it.
No, it's
No, we
not.
don't.
No
We're not
compensation.
getting
We're completely volunteer, there's
I
no
work at
compensation.
9 to
Come on,
5
how
job, my
much
wife
is
works
this?
a 9 to 5 job. We are paying out of our own pockets to put these events on. We
You're
are
getting
not
that
getting
revenue
kickbacks.
back.
We
No,
don't want revenue.
We don't see
So
any that goes
anything-
into.
Anything that comes in goes into the next
$10,
event.
You don't get $10 back.
No.
No.
All right,
No.
so my other question is, as vendors, when you go to Warwick or Beacon.
We're
We're
not.
vendors, and Anthony's
Right,
a
committee.
vendor, and
I'm
we're
asking
vendors
committee.
and other events.
It's a vendor question,
Vendors,
not a committee.
their prices are different wherever the venue may be.
It
correct?
depends on the village or
Right,
any
because
event.
Warwick puts on a spread all summer long, all year long,
Right.
and Beacon does the same thing.
Right.
Cornwall does it maybe twice a year.
They are also twice the size of Washington.
Yeah, right.
As a vendor though, we do not, because we
I mean,
have a
if you
strong
created-
support base, we do not raise our prices for one event, because our customers will know, like, wait a minute.
Right.
You also know, you also know,
Yesterday,
Correct.
vendors
And it's
in the
Hey,
area
guys.
coming to our events also have
Maybe-
their own following.
maybe we
They
could
raise
move
the
with
price-
them.
prices on their products, those people will not come and utilize those vendors.
I mean, they're hooked up with a lot of vendors, right? So if you could get
Come on,
somebody
Chris,
in the
come on.
town.
The mayor wishes to say something.
Get it under control. Stop
No,
talking, we're paying them overtime.
Good, I mean, good conversation, but if we, and I think we're all welcome to stay, I'm happy to stay.
We have our monthly meeting, you're
Just-
welcome to come to the
Yes,
monthly meeting.
You know, come to the meeting.
Heck, if I knew that, I would've cut it off a long time ago.
Conversation, I think, if there is no other public comment, we can end it and be happy to stay. Yeah, as long as you guys want. And thanks for the committee coming in. If I knew you were coming, I would have set up a table for you guys and just, you know, taking the dais and give us the day off. So, but really, I thank everybody for coming. And again, please, you know, be safe over the next couple of days. Storms are supposed to be on their way. And again, you're welcome to stay and have this conversation. So with that, could I just ask the board for an adjournment and to close the meeting? Have a motion?
Motion to close.
Motion to close, have a second?
There's nothing to adjourn, right? We're just closing?
Yeah, we're closed.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
You said adjourn and close, and I'm like, what are we adjourning?
We made a motion.
Okay.
Sorry. Now we have a second. All in favor? Motion passes. Okay, continue your conversation.
What's that? Yeah, thanks.